For those of you who knew Dr. Sheila, you might not recognize my name because she always called me Captain Gary, as the people in Guayana, South America did. It was a privilege to work with Dr. Sheila. She broke me into mission life in South America. I had grown up in Africa as a missionary kid, but this was my first tour of duty as a single person. And I was the young pilot there, director of the project. And I got to meet Dr. Sheila for the first time out 200 miles out in the jungle at a village called Parima, where there was a small industrial trade school as well as a Bible school. She also did some medical work there. She ran the school. Dr. Sheila was extremely dedicated to God's work. If there's anybody who was ever dedicated that I've met, she's the one. I've worked with many different missionaries over the past 10 years now, and previous to that as a kid growing up, and I can say that Dr. Sheila is by far one of the most committed. She was what I'd call a low-maintenance missionary. She was willing to go anywhere, do anything. It didn't matter if she didn't have food, if she didn't have comforts of life. It didn't matter if she had to sleep on the floor in a dirty place. Whatever it was, she was willing to go. She wasn't a complainer. In fact, in later years, working with her, I had to ask people around her, how is she doing? Because she wouldn't tell me. She wanted to stay at her post of duty. A couple different times for medical reasons toward the end. I heard that she wasn't doing well, so I'd make a trip down and she would try to look her best. Put on a little bit of a show, I'm doing fine, I'm doing fine. And I'd have to sit her down, say, Dr. Sheila, you fell, you're sick, you aren't eating well, I need to take you out. And she would hang her head. She'd say, you're right, Gary, let's go. But she wouldn't do it until I came. She wouldn't listen to anybody else. She would say, wait till Captain Gary comes. She was a very determined lady. Sometimes sitting in on a board meeting or something, she'd put her fist down and say, that's not the way it should be. It should be like this. She'd say her piece. Usually she was right. Very determined. But you know what I appreciate about her most? Was that she loved to tell others about Christ. But more importantly, she didn't just put on Christian clothes and say, this is how it should be. She lived the life of a Christian. After being in the village of Parima until about 2003, things were running there smoothly. We had more missionaries. So we were talking about starting work in a new area. She said, take me wherever it's the hardest place you can find. I'll go because nobody else is willing. So we were looking at starting some work down in the south part of Guayana, down by the Brazil border, in a little town called Lethem. This town is a difficult town to share Christianity because it's kind of like an old western town. It's on the border. The riffraff comes from both sides. They kind of hang out there. You have the little bars. They have a little bit of electricity, so they have the televisions. It's not the jungle setting like she was used to. But she was willing to go. And this little frail old lady that couldn't walk from one edge of town to the other, it'd take her 2 hours, but she would do it. She befriended the people. It wasn't long till everybody in that town knew who Dr. Sheila was. Oh yeah, the old doctor that lives over there. I know who it is. She invited me to church. She wanted me to come have Bible studies with her. She'd befriend the drunk down the road, the prostitute around the corner, the local shop owner, the local police. Whoever it was knew who Dr. Sheila was. She would go to people's homes, visit them, sometimes ask them if they had a Bible. Well, yes, I have a Bible. Well, do you study your Bible? No. Well, why don't you come to my house and study the Bible? Well, they'd come up with excuses. And the most common one in that town was, well, my Bible's kind of torn, the cover is off of it, and, they tried to use that on her, but she was too smart for that. She'd say, tell you what, you bring the Bible to my house and I'll fix it for you. She wouldn't take it. She wouldn't let them send it. She wouldn't do it at their house. She made them come to her house. And she had about 20 different people that she was doing Bible studies with because they had excuses that their Bible was torn up. So when they had come, she would sit there and she would pull out her plastic and she would pull out some paper, a nice cover for a Bible, thick paper, whatever it was that she had on hand. And she would get her Scotch tape and put the pieces out, and she would start fixing this Bible. She would take it, and she did an excellent job at it, by the way. I was amazed. And she would start binding this Bible. At the same time, she would be talking to this person. She would be talking, and pretty soon she knew their name and their life story, and whatever it may be, she knew their story. And oftentimes they would come back because this lady had taken an interest in them. Most of you who know her knew that she was very frugal. This lady was, like I said, a low-maintenance missionary. When she would come in, she'd come back from the States, I'd fly her back to her post of duty. She had asked me to change some money for her. I'd change the money. And then in a few months, she'd say, I need some more money. Sure. So I changed some more money for her. But every time I came, I'd be thinking, she's just about out of money. She needs some more money. So I'd have money with me, for her. And she'd say, no, I still have enough. Every single time. Sometimes there are circumstances that came up. I would be out of the country for maintenance on a plane, or I'd be stuck with who knows what. And my trip would be delayed a little bit, and I'd think, for sure she's running low. I'd get in contact with some people. I say, look, can you go check on her? Can you take her some stuff? Can you loan her some money if necessary? Whatever the case was. And she would never take it. She always had enough because she pinched those dollars like you wouldn't believe, because she wouldn't spend them on herself. She'd wait to spend them on somebody else. Sometimes when I'd go, I had to go down to the little grocery store and buy stuff for her house and put it in her house before I left her. I'd have to go pay for it and tell the people, now after I leave, you go deliver that to her house, because she wouldn't take it otherwise. Because she thought that she was spending it on herself and not on other people. That's what I mean. Living her Christianity. Wanting everybody else to have the opportunity. She was pretty straight-laced in most things. I think you'd say that, straight-laced, conservative. I appreciated her for that. Very funny experience. She was traveling on a boat one time to one of our mission schools from the city of Georgetown, up this big river that meanders for hours and hours. It was an overnight trip, and these boats can be pretty uncomfortable, sitting out on the deck, getting chewed up by mosquitoes, sitting, sleeping up, whatever. Anywhere you could find space, basically, they were crowded. Well, the people that ran the boat were kind enough to see that she was elderly and said, we have our bunks downstairs. She would be welcome to sleep on one of those. So she was traveling with one of our other missionaries, and he showed her the place, and she went to sleep on one of those bunks, only to wake up in the middle of the night with this big person sleeping beside her. One of the boat hands, they go down there and they just go to sleep. It didn't bother them that there was this old lady sleeping in the corner. But she was mortified when she woke up to see that she was in bed with somebody else. Unfortunately, I never had the chance to tease her about that. But now for the rest of the story. We have an appointment with her in heaven someday soon. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to meet my 4-year-old son. But the first Sabbath in heaven, about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, we're going to get together under the tree of life. Dr. Sheila is going to be there early. She's going to be out there under this tree of life eating the biggest mango you've ever seen. And she's going to have that juicy thing halfway gone. And when she sees me coming, she's going to have her little blue surgical towel that she uses as a kitchen rag or as a whatever rag. She's going to wipe her hands off and get up. And she's going to have a question for me. And that question is going to be, Captain Gary, did you tell everybody at my memorial that Jesus is coming soon? Did you tell them? And she's going to look me straight in the eye and say, did you tell them that Jesus is coming? And so, friends, I want you to know that Jesus is coming soon. This world can't go on much longer. And I want to be able to answer that question. And I hope that each of you can answer her question too. Did you tell others about Jesus? Did you use every minute you had to share the gospel? Did you live your life? Did you change your ways so that we can meet in heaven once again? I know that she's going to be there, and I'm looking forward to our appointment together.